Shalom, shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praise, honor, and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops of Great Millstone that rule well, and peace and blessing be multiplied on all you brethren, teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect, 144,000. I'm the brother Dama Agabar, here with another lesson, Lord willing to edify through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Yahweh Shai, right? And this is not going to be a very long lesson, but, I just wanted to show you something that, I was on this, this page right here, and it's just showing you the updates that's happening over there in Iran and that situation over there with those small hats, those Israelis, and just showing you that, hey, man, the Lord is making major moves, in this world as far as bringing this third world war to pass. Now, we know it's not going to get full blown into third world war, but we can see the stage being set, once we start, once the MOTB is issued and the mandatory, issuing of this MOTB, this is when this war is going to fully be and, at the point of no return, which it already is now. But we know as of right now, it's going to escalate and then probably de-escalate a little bit. And it's going to, escalate again. But we know ultimately, prophetically, once the MOTB is issued, that's when this third world war is going to come. But I'm just want to show you in this article all of these updates of how the Lord is definitely setting the stage. And this situation, is going to continue to go forward, man. So I'm just going to show you this, how all these live updates of what's going on. All right. So it says the title says Iran launches retaliatory attacks on U.S. forces in Qatar. You see, but it says, look at this, all these updates. It says 8 minutes ago, Qatar condemns Iranian strikes on U.S. base, says reserves the right to respond. So Iran just, shot some missiles over there in those American occupied bases over there in Qatar. So we know what that's going to lead to. What it's going to lead to more escalation, more reasons for, the least of the flock, drawn out, basically America getting more involved in this war. America came with their B-52 bombers. They bombed, they did their little business. And now today I was reading they brought back those stealth bombers that they used for those attacks on those air bases back over here to America. And now Trump is talking about, we went in there, we did what we did. And now we're going to, basically they're trying to go and, leave it into the hands of somebody else outside of the U.S. to go and to continue, the job over there in Iran. Which is, it just doesn't work that way. But it's just showing you that, hey, man, the Lord has this thing definitely moving. But let's keep going. Look at this. 9 minutes ago, Qatar condemns Iranian. I read that. Oh, yeah, here we go. 2 minutes ago, Iran had coordinated attacks with Qatar to minimize casualties. I read that when it says 12 minutes ago, Iran says it is committed to maintaining warm ties with Qatar despite attack. You see? It says Iran gave Qatar an assurance that the U.S. base attack by Iranian missiles was far away from residential areas, that it did not cause any danger to the brotherly and friendly country of Qatar and its people. Iran is committed to maintaining its warm ties with Qatar, Iran's Supreme National Security Council said in a statement, because there's been a lot of talk of these nations, those Arab nations, saying that they need to unite with Iran against those small hats and against the West and what they're out there doing. Because ultimately, hey, if they're willing to do this to Iran, basically all of those Muslim countries, if they're not playing ball and they're not, operating under the hegemony of the West, hey, this could be their future. This could be something that could be done unto them. So they figure, look, it's better for us to just come together with Russia, with China. Shit, even North Korea is talking about giving Iran missiles if they need it. Russia is saying the same thing, China is saying the same thing. And a lot of those Arab countries are basically saying, look, we're willing to come to the aid of Iran to help them against, the West and those small hats. So the Lord is definitely, like I said, moving these chess pieces ultimately to set the stage for what's, to come. All right. 21 minutes ago, it says Iran says U.S. forces in Iraq also targeted by missiles attacks. See, Trump in the White House Situation Room after Iran attacked U.S. forces. You see, and this is going to be an ongoing back and forth situation until we know ultimately it's going to lead to the war to end all wars, man. It's going to lead to a situation to where, all parties involved are going to, bring in this third world war. It says 33 minutes ago, White House, Pentagon monitoring threats to U.S. forces in the Middle East. And now they're saying what? There could be, Iranian was saying they're going to awaken their sleeper cells here in the West, which we know a lot of that shit could easily be orchestrated and controlled by the CIA, the FBI, by, Western-backed, intelligence agencies to use that as more of an excuse to be justified in going to war with Iran, man. So we're definitely living in some very spooky, and the days are evil, man. So, hey, you can expect anything to take place, not all around the world, and especially here in the West. So don't be surprised if you're going to start seeing particular events taking place, explosions, T attacks, cyber situations and other things of that nature. Because ultimately we know that these elites, they're getting ready to come down with wrath because their time is short. That they need the chaos, they need the war, they need the so-called T attacks happening here in Babylon the Great. So-called falsified cyber attacks and things of that nature to bring in this NWO. And a lot of this war is theater that's being used by these elites on the left-hand side to bring in this NWO. Now, of course, they're using real bombs, they're using real missiles, there's real people dying. But a lot of this shit is purposely being orchestrated by these elites so that they can bring in their NWO. All right. It says Iran says it targeted U.S. forces in Qatar in Operation Glad Tidings of Victory. 43 minutes ago, several explosions heard over Doha. You see? Over Qatari capital Doha, reporters report citing an eyewitness. Iran launches 6 missiles at U.S. forces in Qatar. It says there is imminent threat of Iranian attack on U.S. forces in Qatar. You see? Amnesty calls on Iran to protect prisoners amid Israeli attacks. Yeah, I heard that. I read an article that they blew up one of those prisons in Iran that are housed with a lot of people that are against the Iranian regime. So what? They blew up that prison. A lot of those guys could have been released from that prison. Who knows? So it's just all type of shit going on. Here it goes. It says a video released by Iran's judiciary shows the aftermath of an Israeli airstrike on an administrative building and courthouse of Tehran's notorious Evin prison. See? Look at this. Qatar temporarily shuts down its airspace amid regional tensions. Revolutionary Guards hint at retaliatory attacks from Persian Gulf. Yep. See? What else? No reason to criticize Israeli or U.S. attacks on Iran, German leader says. See? What else? 2 hours ago, Israel urges Tehran residents to stay away from military facilities. U.S.-Israeli attacks may pose serious contamination risks, Iran warns. U.S. expect attacks from Iran in 2 days. Israel says regime change in Iran not objective, but may be a byproduct. Because that's ultimately what the West and these elites been wanted for Iran. Because what? Iran doesn't have a, what do you call that? They don't have a, what is that shit called? One of those banks. What was it? It's one of those banks. What do they call it? A Federal Reserve, bank over there in Iran. And that's something that these elites been want, and that's why, ultimately they want regime change because they just want total control over that region. This is why they're saying a regime change is needed, because what they're going to do, they're going to kill the current leadership and put in puppets and individuals who are under the control of the West, man. And that's going to what? That's going to bring hell to those citizens and to those people. Because look at all the countries that the West went into during this whole Middle Eastern bombing and war campaign. Look at Libya. Look at Syria. Look how those countries ended up, after all was said and done, man. Those countries are in shambles, man. They're war torn. They got puppet leaders in there, and they're basically there to do the bidding of the West. And it's the same thing they want for Iran at the end of the day. You see, it says our objective in Iran is not regime change, but that may be the byproduct, which that is the fucking objective. I don't know why they just don't come out and say it, It says the spokesperson said an Israeli airstrikes continue to hit what it calls regime repression infrastructure in and around Tehran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities and prisons linked to political detentions. Look at this. White House says Iranians may need to strip power from violent regime. Oh, boy. Here we go. All right. And switch it with what? You know, it says the White House says Iran was imminent threat, which that's just not true. And that's always the excuse. Whenever they attack a country, they always say, "Oh, they're a threat to America's national security. They hate us because of our freedom." When we're over there with the military to to suppress that type of to repress those threats, which is all just bullshit and fluff and puff, man. All right. And there's like I said, there's information out there. They know that Iran didn't possess any nuclear weapons. They wasn't enriching their uranium to even create a nuclear weapon. But that's always going to be the excuse of why they need to be eliminated so that they can protect Israel at all costs. Bullshit. It says 3 tankers divert from Strait of Hormuz. Yep. So now they're talking about the Strait of Hormuz being closed, which is going to bring more inflation. It's going to bring more higher oil prices, and just the price of travel is going to become more and more expensive. So that's one thing that those Iranians could do as a way to as a way of hitting back at the West. But really, it's going to hurt Europe more than it's going to hurt. I mean, it's going to hurt the West too, but it's going to hurt Europe even more because they depend heavily upon the Strait of Hormuz and a lot of the energy that travels through that region. What else? It says Iran's exiled prince says the Islamic Republic is collapsing. Well, that's the ultimate goal that these elites want, is to what? Collapse. Iran and any other of those Middle Eastern countries that's not playing ball. Shit, they're even trying to do that here in the West. That's just the ultimate goal completely for these elites, is to bring global collapse, to do away with the current system as we know it, and bring in this new world order. All right, so yeah, look at this. Aggression against Iran was groundless, Putin tells Iranian foreign minister in Moscow. I'm just showing you these things that's going on over there. And it's just, updates by the updates, man. It's hot. The shit is crazy over there. It's going down. It says, Israel strikes multiple IRGC and security installations. All right, look at this. A video obtained by Iranian International shows a series of explosions rocking Tehran. Look at this. Look at that. What else we got? Israeli missile strike hits Iranian state media facility 8 hours ago. Israel targets Fordow nuclear site. Israel targets administration sections of Iran's Evin prison. No casualty among inmates. What else? Iran International showed the moment Tehran's Evin prison was struck by Israeli airstrike. Look at this. Germany wants Iran to negotiate directly with the U.S. Of course you do. Closing of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is extremely dangerous, EU says. Says concerns of retaliation and this war escalating are huge, especially closing the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is something that would be extremely dangerous and not good for anybody. EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs Kaja Kallas told reporters Monday ahead of a meeting with EU foreign ministers. Right, because Europe is going to suffer more than anybody if they shut down that Strait of Hormuz, as far as them getting in, the energy that they need. But at the same time, you got other EU nations saying that, they defend Israeli, they defend the small hats and they're attacking and their campaign on Iran. But at the same time, you don't want them to retaliate by closing the Strait of Hormuz, which is going to harm you. But at the same time, you're green lighting and going along with, Iran's enemy attacking and destroying them. But as long as it doesn't affect or hurt your economy, get the fuck out of here. Don't work that way, It says U.S. is Israel's partner in all crimes, Iran says. Yeah, and that's true, which is why we always go into Jeremiah, the 49th chapter, with the least of the flock. Those small heads are going to draw. Well, they already drew America out into this situation. So what it says, Iran's parliament eyes ending cooperation with UN nuclear watchdog. It says Iran's judiciary chief vows retaliation for U.S. attacks. Iran arrests 36 in Gilan province for alleged cooperation with Israel. Iran's military says prepare to target American interests. You see? So you can see why, this situation is just going to continue to go forward, man. It's just going to be a tit for tat until eventually, it's going to lead to this third world war. Yep, U.S. attacks in Iran mark collapse in international order. Iran and Russia are coordinating their positions, Iranian foreign minister says. That's Ezekiel 38 chapter right there. You know, Russia being a guard unto Iran. You see? What else? Israeli military says it attacked 6 Iranian airports across Iran. Iran army chief warns U.S. of divisive response. Iran says U.S. involvement in conflict expands scopes of target. Yeah, so we can go on and on, man. Iran to continue uranium enrichment, says FM deputy foreign minister. 10 Iranian servicemen killed in Israeli airstrike. So it's going to go on and on, man. See? Ooh. Yep. At bullseye, Trump celebrates nuclear sites damage. Oil price spurts up $2 in early trading after U.S. attack on Iran. Khamenei vows to punish Israel in first words since U.S. attacks. In pictures, protests held worldwide against U.S.-Iran attack. And another thing that this is doing really, too, is really isolating the United States and those Israelis, man. Because a lot of people, you know, see it as foul play from the West and bullshit from those small hats, man. And it's only further and just setting the stage, man, you know, for ultimately Babylon the Great America to be obliterated. Look at this. Moscow and Beijing round on U.S. for Iran attacks. So, you see, you can go on and on, man. Just all type of shit going on, you know. And this thing is just going to continue to keep updating as things take place. All right. And we've been telling you, Jakes, out there for the longest that, hey, this situation was going to escalate into this third world war. Well, you've been warned, and we're going to continue to warn you, you know, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. And like I said, while Jake is over here worried about shit going on here in America, the NBA finals, the upcoming NFL season, and the daily drama from, you know, and so-called, you know, the average shit that niggas talk about and do their videos about, this third world war is getting ready to pop off pretty soon, man. All right, and this is Amos 3 and 6. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? And we've been blowing the trumpet. We've been warning you that these things were coming. And now you're starting to see a lot of these podcast guys talking about World War III, talking about the situation with Israel and Iran, but they don't fully understand, you know, the prophetic side of it unless they watch us. But even if they do watch us, they still, you know, don't fully understand, you know. And eventually what's going to end up happening is everything that the prophet said. All right. First, they're going to issue this MOTB, the mark of the beast, which is the implantable RFID microchip. And then eventually after that, this third world war is going to get hot and heavy to the point of no return. And we've been telling you that there is going to be a draft in this country. And now you're hearing talks of that because, I even read an article earlier where they're saying a lot of these military men are, you know, they're leaving the military because they feel betrayed. You know, they're saying that they don't want to go, that this is not a war that America should fight. This is not, you know, a war that they want to be involved in, because they ultimately are seeing that it's not for the interest of protecting America from its enemies and from terrorists, man. That this is a war, a banker's war. This is a war for control. This is a war ultimately to bring in this NWO, and these military men don't want no part of it. A lot of them are walking away. And they're turning in their uniforms and going back into the world, which is going to lead to what? Them having to issue a draft, man. And all of these little generations, the Gen Zers, a lot of these unfit, you know, out of shape, draft eligible individuals, man. Hey, they're not going to just willingly want to go sign up and go fight in the military. A lot of them are going to say, hell no. A lot of them are going to hide out, go on the run. Shit, a lot of them are just going to say, throw me in prison because I'm not fighting this war. There's no patriotic motivation or patriotic sense here in America that they want to fight and defend this country, America, man. So they're going to have a draft pretty soon. And we've been prophesying and telling you all these things are on the table. But now we're at the point to where a lot of people are starting to smell the coffee and see this is an actual reality. Because a lot of these Jakes was hoping that these prophecies and the thing that we were saying would be, you know, not in their lifetime or 20, 15, 30 years from now. But no, it's right here at the table. All right. It says, shall there be evil in a city and Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, have not done it? Surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. And we've been prophesying and telling you that these things were coming. And we've been prophesying, telling you that hey, the MOTB is right around the corner, and this third world war is right there as well. And that pretty soon, hey, those nuclear missiles will be shot and fired, and they will be used on Babylon the Great, man. And the only escape and deliverance from it here in America, Babylon the Great, is to be taken up in the chariots or in the spaceships that you people laugh and mock and say that we're crazy for saying. That's the only way out of it. And if you're not part of the elect, then guess what? Hey, you're going to be left here to feel that fire here in Babylon the Great, which is coming, man. So with that, I just wanted to just do this little quick lesson showing you that, hey, it's going down over there in Asia, or what you would call the Middle East. And look at this. More updates. U.S. jet fighters take off from Saudi Arabia, Israel's Channel 14. You see? So it's hot and heavy over there, man. And like I said, we're at the point of no return. All right. Like I said, it might die down a little bit, but ultimately this thing is going forward because it's the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man. So with that, Lord willing, you were edified. Until the next one, Shalom.